We perhaps today are there in every panchayat, right? And every panchayat today is powered by Bhashini, the e-Gram Swaraj. India has 100 odd languages which are spoken by 100,000 plus people, and there could be 1,000 variants of those languages. In some places, it will be very pure Hindi. आप क्या कर रहे हैं? और in other places, आप क्या कर रही है? The functional problem was that we needed inclusivity and empowerment in terms of language, in terms of digital inclusion, in terms of getting people on the other side of the literacy divide to use the digital systems. Somebody who is good in language was good in knowledge also. That myth will get broken. So digital system should be able to understand what I am speaking in 22 languages to start off with, because that is in the 8th schedule of the Constitution. And then the computer systems, can they speak to me? Frankly speaking, if you look at the AI, it's like a child who is supposed to be taught. So the more we use AI, the better it is going to be.
Welcome to ETAI podcast, where we decode how AI is transforming the way we build and grow businesses. Today, we are exploring one of the most powerful shifts shaping that transformation: language AI. If UPI unified how India pays, language AI has the power to unify how India speaks, understands, and engages with the technology. It's a breakthrough that could redefine customer experience, unlock new markets, and make digital inclusion a reality for every business. And today, we are joined by Mr. Amitabh Nag, CEO of Digital India Bhashini Division at Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology. Welcome, sir, to the AI podcast. So, to start things first, if you were to define the why behind Bhashini in 1 minute, what would it be?
So, a few things. India is a very diverse country and has about 100 odd languages which are spoken by 100,000 plus people, and there could be 1,000 variants of those languages. The second part of the thing is that we all are using digital systems, and the people and the digital systems are obviously English-centric. And some of them have grown into multilinguality, but it is also a challenge that, not all systems have been multilingual till now. So the digital inclusivity is a challenge. And of course, we still have some population which are on the other side of the literacy divide. So when we are looking at we going digital, we have a big challenge. We have language divide, which will not enable the, people understand what the digital systems look like, work the way they want. Then we have the, digital divide where people do not know how to operate computers and systems. So that's the second problem. And we have literacy divide, which is actually taking it to the next level of inclusion not being there. Right? Now, obviously, this mission was basically thought of as a mission which will bridge the language divide. It means the mission statement was to transcend the language divide. That means we are basically bridging the digital divide and moving beyond it, right? And we intended to solve 5 problems. That is automatic speech recognition by the digital system. So the digital system should be able to understand what I am speaking in 22 languages to start off with, because that is in the 8th schedule of the Constitution. And then look at, can I translate one language to other, from which is encoded in text, which is encoded in one language, that is text-to-text translation. And then the computer systems, can they speak to me, in a that is text-to-speech translation. So that's something which we started off with. And then we added optical character recognition. That means the printed text, which generally gets scanned as a picture or a grayscale, is actually changed over to machine-readable format. So that's about optical character recognition. And the other problem which we went in to solve was to see that our country goes digital as far as vocabulary is concerned. So we have our own, what is called as dishes. We have our own culture. We have our own dresses. Everything should be, known to the digital systems. It may be known to us, but it may not be known to digital systems. So digital vocabulary creation was another job which we had taken across. So these 5, The functional problem was that we needed inclusivity and empowerment in terms of language, in terms of digital inclusion, in terms of getting people on the other side of the literacy divide to use the digital systems. While as we had this the technical landscape, we had this five problem and five problem statements which were there. And that was basically solving the way we are looking at it. So if we use voice as a medium, then we are actually solving most of the digital inclusivity problem. And language, of course, solves the problem of digital inclusivity with a very large extent. So at the end of the day, it was all about inclusivity and empowerment. And this is one of the facets which was being used, which was perhaps not there for a very long time in a focus because the technology was not supporting it so well.
Yeah.
But now that we have artificial intelligence powers of GPUs, we can perhaps look at these things to happen very fast and very quick.
I think it's really fascinating and a game changer for a country like India, where we have to deal with too many dialects, too many languages. And what difference does it make to a life of an average user who is online but does not know how to use internet better? Specifically, all the apps, all the websites use English as the primary language.
Yeah.
And with this kind of technology, how is that going to change the life of regular users?
First thing is about information. Do I know what our insurance policy looks like? Do I know what banking policies look like or banking system look like? All of that is today in English. And going further in terms of medical terms, going further in terms of governance as such also happens to be in English. So one piece of the thing is we expect the citizens to be better informed about their rights as well as about the duties and the facilities which they can avail from the government and otherwise also. So it's a combination which actually makes them more empowered. Second thing which changes is that I am perhaps able to use a voice journey to reflect myself and communicate to the other people. So, that is again another aspect that I can, communicate with the most of the entities or the stakeholders who are using today English as the parameter or for, conversation can be changed, now it can be in any language and it can be on voice as well. Then obviously the collaboration, innovation, teaching, schooling, all of these things happen in multilinguality. So, when you are when you are a kid, anyone who is, growing up in a tier 2 city, he or she would like to think in the mother tongue and then, perhaps translate it into English and then start speaking to you because that's happening in his mind because his upbringing in that particular language. So that is a challenge, and we far were, in a situation where somebody who is good in language was good in knowledge also. That myth will get broken. So good in language is a separate thing than good in knowledge. So I think that is one of the major breakthroughs which we will be anticipating in future, and there would be more opportunities for people to actually grow, collaborate, innovate, and discover new things.
Oh, that makes it crystal clear. So voice tech has been there for last so many years. In last 12 to 18 months, what has changed so significantly which gives you confidence that all the use cases which you just talked about seem possible to you?
Many things. One is that we today have the technology. Technology actually enables, the GPU powers which is there, as well as the cloud which is around, makes it ubiquitous and accessible across the places without any, hindrances. So that's one big part which has become possible. Second part of the thing is that, you are also looking at the people embracing it positively. So when the technology is supporting and people are supporting it in terms of how to move about it, I think things would take it forward. The other pieces which we have done actually to promote this particular technology is not to try to boil the ocean, but look at those narrow use cases which can actually demonstrate the success of it. So we we are using in a narrow use case of, say, grievance registering. We are using narrow use cases of, say, changing the language. So there are many narrow use cases where voice tech has been used successfully, and voice journey is something which has been used successfully. So Obviously with AI coming in, the accuracy is increasing because of the data which is could get churned, and frankly speaking, if you look at the AI, it's nothing about something very fascinating. No, it's like a child who is supposed to be taught, and when you teach a child that this particular equipment or this particular thing is, say, this particular equipment is called a mic, and you tell him 10 times that this is a mic, then he would understand that this is a mic, and similarly the AI model would understand. So the more we use AI, the better it is going to be. And with the proliferation of mobile and other technologies which are there, people seems to have appetite to use AI more and experiment with it more.
Great. So, if you were to talk about some early results with what you just spoke about, so something which you are really proud of in terms of picking up a problem, deploying it at scale, and seeing some early results.
Yeah, so obviously we have done a lot of activities, and I think that is quite evident from whatever feedbacks and the attention which we are getting. But few things which would perhaps give a satisfaction is that we perhaps today are there in every panchayat, right? And every panchayat today is powered by Bhashini, the eGram Swaraj portal, which was a kind of ERP for panchayats, is now multilingual. And all the panchayats today work in a multilingual format. But I think the Ministry of Panchayati Raj went a step further and tried to solve another problem which was there of minutes of meeting of the panchayat. So they currently and today record the minutes in audio in the native language and then push it across to the system to transcribe it in first in native language, then translate it into English or Hindi as the local higher governance would understand, and then take action on it. And this is something which is a very unique kind of application which we didn't think of, but it has taken off very well. If you see at the portal sabhasar.panchayatiraj.gov.in, it would be having, till now, there is approximately 90,000 videos which has been posted by various panchayats in various languages, which are being processed through the system, and the minutes of meetings are generated. So the use cases which people have taken up are beyond our imagination, our own imagination, because there are surveys which are getting carried out on this. There are payments which are getting on voice journey. We have approximately 500 plus websites which are getting translated into multiple languages. We are now adding voice to the website so that you can talk to the website and get the information around it. So that's another piece of feature which we are working upon. Today, government's normal e-office service actually has voice to text so that your productivity increases. We are having citizen connects of the honorable ministers, where we are providing voice to text service and then translating into local language so that it is easily understood by the people at the local level. So use cases have been phenomenal, but as I said, what brings satisfaction is where we are putting maximum effort as far as inclusivity is concerned, and that is a workshop which or that is a way in which most of the systems would go in future, perhaps.
India is a fascinating country. We had seen with mobile revolution. In fact, for most of the Indians, mobile screen was the first screen interface which they saw, and they never used laptops or internet before. And what you just said, the adoption in panchayats, it's phenomenal. We also heard about it is being used in parliament right now. If you can elaborate more on the current use case in terms of how it is being used.
So there are multiple use cases which you obviously hear in the public domain also. We are looking at a transcription of parliament proceedings on the floor language. So that is one thing. Of course, translating the proceedings into multiple language so that everybody hears it. Digitizing the old records which are there in the parliament for everybody's usage out there. So in fact, there we are using multiple modalities. Means one is optical character recognition. Second is, for the older records where the digitization cannot happen through optical character recognition, what we have tried to do is to basically scan that particular document and then use automatic speech recognition to recreate that document. So I have a system by which on the left-hand side, I see the document and somebody speaks out what is there so that it comes into the, live format as far as machine readability is concerned. So that is again a good set of things which we are trying to work upon.
It's really interesting. In fact, do you envisage now, considering where we are with this technology, a world where interface or a screen does not exist? Can voice be so powerful that it can directly talk to a system and work gets done without a screen?
Without a screen, I am. It means it is to be said somewhere or stored somewhere as a thing. Yes, there is a possibility of that happening in near future, that you will be having a device with you.
Because the reason I'm saying, because it typically, to operate any website or any app, there is a learning curve. You have to figure out what to find where, and it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And if voice becomes that powerful, you are right. I mean, you don't need to spend time in terms of figuring out where
Yeah,
to do
so
what. You can directly go to what you want.
From an increasing productivity point of view, yes, voice technology is moving in that direction to make it happen in terms of how. So, technology has two perspectives there. One is the perspective of inclusivity, where, if I don't know how to read and write and I'm not digitally savvy, then I would perhaps speak it out and, want my things to be done. Second is about increasing productivity, where we know how to do it, but just that we want to use voice so that it happens immediately and urgently. So those things are something which voice technology will take you through in next few years, and that is what we have been championing around. So the idea of our this mission is to ensure that we continue to focus on low resource languages. We continue to focus on the clear objectives which are basically led to the voice thing, which is the inclusivity applications. Otherwise, you have a lot of other applications which are there. But our idea is to ensure that there are inclusivity domain applications which we, get in and we get deep into it so that we solve their problems.
Many enterprises who have B2C or even B2B products find if they were to go multilingual, it means starting all over again, lot of development time, effort, cost, everything. Is it that difficult now?
Not exactly, because we are now, taking the things and translating. And obviously, like, we do currently have multiple websites which we are translating. That is one of the experiments which we are doing. And in some cases, the original website is in English. We are supposed to basically look at in multilingual format. So that is one type of use case. The second type of use case is original website is in English, but they want Hindi first because of various reasons. So that is the second type of use case, because that's not possible natively. Third use case is, of course, to look at, they had done by their own mechanism 2-language website. Now they want to do multilinguality again. Those two things have to be preserved, while rest of it has to be taken from translation perspective. So that is another part which is there. Then when you are browsing a website, it is generally a stateless activity. That means, every page reloads with your own thing. Means it's not remembering what you have done earlier unless and until you are navigating. And even in navigation, that's a separate thing. So you are here. Once you have reached to the website and you are, say, Marathi, or you are wanting the website in Tamil, you want that particular navigation to be entirely in Tamil. So that is where use cases. So those all use cases have been solved by us, right? So mind you, you have a website translation as a piece, but you have so many use cases which actually has to be, taken up. And then there are specific nuances of a website being in multilingual by itself, and then it has to be again translated. So it is a complex exercise, but we are not expecting the everything to be redone and everything to be reoriented. We are also working on with the customers to actually see that every website which has got its brand name, like for example, Economic Times is a brand name, right? It is not a normal word which will come in. You will have to, if I want to have Economic Times in multiple languages, it has to be known as Economic Times. So that becomes a brand name which has to be transliterated rather than translated. And hence, those are the glossary items which we do pick up from the customer and then work upon it to do the website translation. So one use case has multiple dimensions, and those dimensions are actually taken care, and hence we do not expect customer to change the way in which they are working today.
Just to understand in more detail about the platform Bhashini, if we were to make it simple for our viewers about payments, 10 years back, if any platform needed to integrate payment, it needed a complete project, multiple integrations with multiple payment gateways, and used to take weeks or even months for some companies. And now it takes a day because everything is so seamlessly integrated, everything, the documentation is so good, and there are a lot of aggregators available. Where is this platform right now, Bhashini, at this point in time, in terms of integration with any D2C or even B2B product?
So I would mean, so obviously on different use cases, there is different benchmark. But let me give you one example that when the Vande Mataram platform was to be launched, we received a request a day before we released the plugin, and next day when it was inaugurated, the website was multilingual.
Wow.
So I think we have reached a long way in terms of plug and play, and that's what our idea would be. That when with one button of click, say Economic Times becomes 22 languages paper. That is what our aim would be. So we spend more time in content. We spend more time in data annotation and labeling, which is so important. We spend more time in vetting the entire thing so that we keep making our models perfect. So those are the areas which, the future is to be taken across. So current translators, the job which is there, maybe the data annotators and labelers for the next generation. So the job description and reskilling would change, but that is what is going to happen.
If a CEO is listening to you right now, who has a business which is thriving in tier 1, but literally struggling in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, where connect with the audience is a bigger challenge. And if you were to suggest a, say, 30-day or a 90-day plan, how to get started and not rebuilding, essentially changing or tweaking the current product to make it relevant for tier 2 to tier 3 audience by just changing the language. So what will be your guidance to the CEO?
Means it is a roadmap which he has to basically look at. Number one is to see that the information about the product and services are available the way the local people want it. So first is, of course, to look at language as one of the parameters to see which language the people work upon and, obviously disseminate the information in that. Second is to see, can we basically look at voice to be an interface of information dissemination. So that is the second part which I would look at. The third is to look at how do I connect back to the customer in terms of, taking the feedback and other things. There again, we look at both the journeys, voice and text journey, which is there in the local language. Those are the interfaces those are the interfaces which can go multilingual and voice enabled. But, we are looking at an effort which is going to be far beyond. Can the inventory be managed through voice? Can the payment be done through voice? Can the SKUs, shelf lives, etc., can be managed through voice? So those are the things which we are looking at a step down so that, the job of the distributor and the retailers become easy if I look at the value chain in terms of FMCG. But even on services, products, even on loans, etc., these are the few things which perhaps would bring in a lot of inclusivity and business productivity gains.
And this connects a lot of dots that for a business, it is not just about expanding your reach to customers, but also improving your operations, improving efficiency and reducing cost. And more importantly, build a culture of inclusivity within an organization. So, well said, sir. In terms of accuracy, so what are the use cases where you believe we have reached a level where Bhashini as a platform can claim very high accuracy and it's ready to deploy at this point in time? And what are the use cases where you still believe we need to do a lot of work, where the cost of failure may be very, very high?
Yeah, so, that's a debate which we continue to have because at the end of the day, accuracy is how you perceive it. Right now might not be speaking the pure language because I'm speaking broken sentences, I'm trying to emphasize on certain points, and hence it may not be a grammatically correct English, so as to say, but it is understood, right? So if you understand it, that is one level of, accuracy thing. So that is something which we are currently leaving it to the customer. But when we are looking at the financial transactions, when we are looking at legal documents, and when we are looking at providing, say, medical and other things, accuracy does become important then it does not remain the way you understand it. It has to become 100% or accurate as such. And towards that, the point is that we are choosing narrow use cases to ensure that the vocabulary as well as the models start getting trained. So we have implemented voice-based payment system with NPCI, so that gives you one stream of inclusivity and the domain building and machine building there. The second thing is we are actively working with banks to actually create chatbots around it to know the balance and other things. The third is about websites. So we are increasing the number of websites which are basically having the banking glossary. So that increases the glossary. So once we are into a narrow use cases and perhaps done about 20 use cases, our accuracy in that domain is expected to increase quite a lot, because at the end of the day, it's a learning system. So the journey of accuracy is with the customer. Some customers means we are working with, say, we talked about Parliament. We actually got a glossary of 40,000 words which were ingested into the system to make it specific to how the Parliament views the entire language, because that language is again different. We have similarly got legal glossaries and similarly other glossaries which are getting created.
Do you also foresee a solution where it is more layered? For example, in healthcare space, while a doctor may use some kind of voice assistance, at the same time, the doctor needs to previews and okays before it actually goes into the system. So something like human in the loop in some sensitive use cases.
In all use cases, I think it is more or less an assistant. It's not looking at the end product itself. We whenever we are translating the website, also we say that it is a AI-based translation, although it might just be 99% correct or 100% correct. We are, saying that it is machine-generated thing. We are currently having an innovation challenge and a hackathon where doctor-patient conversation actually leads to a HIS, hospital information system, filling up, as well as the prescription generation. But at the end of the day, the prescription is valid once the doctor signs it off. So the human in the loop is going to be there. And the only thing which will perhaps it would have is that it will prompt the human in the loop to be more educated and more responsive than what he's doing otherwise physically, because machine might throw up better results than what he knows, or might throw worse results than what he has. Both of them are possibilities.
Well said, sir. In terms of, while we talk a lot about accuracy, what are the core KPIs in which you measure accuracy of Bhashini? And if someone is actually using voice tech, what are the core metrics the person should look at to evaluate whether it is actually improving or not?
At the end of the day, when we are looking at core KPIs of anything, we are today, what we see as far as our products or systems are concerned, we are seeing that, most of the things which are required in the system are there, because if you're speaking a pure language, you are actually getting pure answers. But where it actually requires more thinking process or working through is about dialects and about the colloquial language, where you are using what is called as bolchal ki bhasha. And there, obviously, since there are so many variants, we will have to, have so much of data and hence so much of training of the models itself.
Do you want to give some examples to our audience?
Okay, if you are on Hindi, you will find variants all through. In some places, it will be very pure Hindi. आप क्या कर रहे हैं? और in other places, आप क्या कर रही है? तू क्या कर रही है? The entire thing is going to change from dialects to dialects. So you will, what Hindi is spoken in Indore is not what is spoken in Lucknow, right? And that is quite evident, for anyone who is there. But when what is spoken in, say, Bihar is again a very different Hindi. And means even a paragraph has different terminology in UP as compared to in Bihar. So those are things which, as the system proliferates, people will give feedback and it will be improved. But coming back to your question about the accuracy benchmark, I will still say that it is based on how you pursue it, right? And some would say that I am able to understand, so it's good. Some will say, pick up a word and say that this is not translated properly. And both the feedbacks are valuable, I would say, because one feedback allows us to improve. Second feedback encourages us to keep going.
Yeah. And you talk about dialect specifically with this, while it is magical for a country like India, but maddening for technology, in which when you talk about the cost of managing all this with the help of technology, do you see a problem in terms of scalability that in order to solve one simple problem across so many dialects, it costs so much more and you may not see the ROI? And where do you actually put a break that beyond this, we do not want to invest more?
When you're looking at the end product, it is basically, it's going to take some time and cost, as you said, to make it perfect and make it cover the universe. But the scalability is, in this particular case, a function of the will which we want to do. If we have thought through that we would basically be scaling up through the country and not stopping anywhere, it will work out. If it is basically thought that I am, we have to work on definite boundaries and limitations, then it would basically have an issue. But given the sort of situations, and of course, that is something which, government at large has to answer, but there are huge number of initiatives going on in this direction. Means we are talking about tribal languages, we are talking about manuscripts, we are talking about languages which have gone, which are no longer exist. We are trying to bring back those languages. So I think there is an appetite to actually ensure that we scale the way we want to, and it will be a function of will of the people as well as the government.
And you talked about scale. For example, if you're looking at 10x adoption, what is one biggest constraint, whether it is policy, infrastructure, cost you mentioned, or anything change in ecosystem, one big change which will lead to 10x adoption? What will that?
10x adoption is basically, today we were told and we have been often told that you should be using English if you have to succeed in life. And that perception still exists. So, people tend to switch languages very fast and not stick to their languages. I think we would do better to express ourselves in our own language. And the moment we say that and we start thinking about it, I think that's the major thing. And that's a change which has to happen to ensure that it has a 10x adoption. Because the moment you think through, and then you want to, go to international market or your own people, want to succeed in life, you will start using these digital tools. And once you start using these digital tools, you will be having those adoption. So it's not about, we have a Bhashini app which can be downloaded freely from the internet at App Store or Play Store. And nothing stops people to download it and start using it, accepting the fact that, when they're talking to somebody in some other language, they're switching to some intermediate language which perhaps should not be there.
Okay, let's start with a rapid fire round in which I'll give you one industry and you speak about a voice tech use case in 1 or 2 lines. So let's start with banking.
Voice-based banking, because in your own language, that would be a game changer for most of the people.
Healthcare.
Doctor-patient conversation, again, voice-based conversation leading to the HIS filling as well as prescription generation and other instructions. That would be a game changer.
Education.
multilingual education means I have instructor talking in any language and the entire student community in any other language. That would again be a game changer because the knowledge would be shared across.
Insurance?
I don't understand insurance policies, so if I am able to understand it in my own language in simplicity form, I would be very happy.
It's a big use case. In fact, I've seen a lot of people using LLMs to summarize what insurance.
Yeah, if I can have a chatbot which tells me what the policy is and
Yeah.
then and the exceptions, then it is good.
So, government where scale and complexity actually collide.
You would look at again schemes availment. If I am able to say that I'm a 12-year-old boy with an ambition to say go abroad, what all schemes are available with me, and if somebody is able to tell me these are the 5 things you need to do, my job is easy.
MSME.
MSME would be basically if I am able to access market, using voice and local language and get on to the multiple platforms, then I am able to do much better. Also from the angle of sourcing material, that's also a
Okay. So that's the end of our rapid fire round. And one question about your future vision, sir. So if you were to imagine this at national scale, 100 million Indians are using this particular product. How do you envisage that ecosystem or environment in terms of what will change and how they will use it?
People would be more natural. I would not say it would be a change, but it would become more natural than what the artificiality we are carrying through. Because we still, most of the countries like China work on their own languages through the day. So, I would feel that we would be more natural. We would not be speaking one language at home and then coming to a workplace and trying to struggle with another language and then going to another environment. So I would say that we would be perhaps more natural in all our activities, and hence we would be getting more time for being productive.
Yeah.
Also, our innovation and thinking capacity would increase manifold. So in an overall scenario, when I say this, I would basically look at that we have increased our productivity, inclusivity, and empowerment to a great extent.
One last request, sir. If you were to give your message to India's business and technology community, what will that be?
As far as the industry is concerned, I would basically say that this is a technology which they should start using it, and remembering quite well that the maturity of this technology will only increase over a period of time. They have to treat it as a child who is growing, and he has to be taught to be an adult and being contributory to the productivity in the future times to come. So that's the message which has to be there for the industry and the tech community, is that for the language systems, a language ecosystem in the country, if we have to improve this, we have to look at ways and mechanisms of collecting data and collecting data very rapidly and then training the models very rapidly. It's futile to compare one model with another model today because almost all models are data deficient. We do have some synthetic data generation mechanisms, but there's no comparison when you actually see the field data versus a synthetic data. Synthetic data can bridge the divide for some time, but we have to find out mechanisms and ways and innovations where we are able to capture field data to improve the models.
Thank you very much, sir, for your time and more importantly, deeper insights, which is going to help us as well as our listeners who are mainly coming from business and technology community. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for having me here, and it's always a pleasure to talk in this forum, and more important, to proliferate what we are trying to do and what we are trying to achieve in the larger strategic terms. Thank you.
Thanks.